Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wimlu. This is the Raptors Reaction Podcast presented by Betway for all your sports betting activities. Hit the QR code that you see here on the screen or follow the link that you see on the description to this episode. So, Raptors lose tonight by a score of 114 to 110 against the Houston Rockets. Rockets gave the Raptors a chance at the end there. Dillon Brooks with a needless turnover to give the Raptors the ball back down three with the timeout. Raptors actually used the timeout this time to drop a play rather than just bringing the ball up. And, they unfortunately were not able to execute. They kind of made a couple passes along the baseline. It got a little tight. There's a debate as to whether or not Jason Tate might have, deflected the ball out of bounds, whatever. Raptors didn't have a review at that time anyway. Regardless, it was a turnover. Raptors lose this game. Raptors have obviously lost a lot of games this season. They're 7-22. I think there were a lot of really good things that happened in this game because the Raptors actually led for the majority of the first half and by a significant margin as well. Those things are all really good, and there were some really exciting things from the young players. And on the other end, there's the frustration. So I think that we can get to things like Scottie having a really, really poor game offensively, and we can get to sort of maybe some of the decisions made by Darko, or just maybe in general a couple of the other things, but I really want to start with the positives because I really don't want to overlook some of those things. That was actually a really, really eye-opening performance from rookie Ja'Kobe Walter, who has set a new career high for himself, 27 points in 28 minutes. Unfortunately, he fouled out with 6 fouls. I think that obviously a couple of those were preventable today. He was guarding a very aggressive player in Dillon Brooks in his homecoming. Dillon had a really nice one as well. He certainly got himself to the foul line a lot. And the last play, in terms of the 6th foul, was about 2-3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And Ja'Kobe had just made a 3. And it was, obviously you would have liked to see him close out the game because he certainly started this game amazing. But on a spin move in the mid-range, when he was going to shoot a fadeaway, Ja'Kobe went to strip the ball from Dillon Brooks, but instead was over-eager and slapped him on the arm. And you could tell how frustrated he was. He put his head in his jersey. He walked to the bench. And I actually loved the moment from Garrett Temple walking over to him, bringing it over to him, give him a little talk, give him a little chat. I don't even know if he hears it in the moment because of just how frustrated, he must have felt in that moment. But Ja'Kobe has nothing but to be proud of for this game. This was such a good game for him, finishing again with 27 points. First 14 points of the game for Toronto were all scored by Ja'Kobe Walter. It was just a 3-point barrage by him. He had some tonight with 6 of 11 from 3, but he also, made 3 twos, got to the foul line, made 3 of 4 from there, made some good passes as well. Just a really, really great performance from Ja'Kobe, who, he started the season off it's not the ideal start for a rookie, right? You were injured for most of training camp because of the shoulder separation, and then he came back and then separated the shoulder again. That forced him to miss more time. It's such a difficult thing. You're trying to jump onto a moving train when you miss time in that significant portion, and yet I think this has been said over and over again on this program and even on the broadcast. But the front office was really high on Ja'Kobe. They were very happy to be able to have him at 19. And you're starting to see why. He's a very mature offensive player for a guy who was one and done in college. And, you definitely look at the 3-point shooting. He's had games where he's missed, more from 3. Tonight, obviously, he was hot from 3. But certainly a guy who can definitely knock it down from 3. The last 3 that he made was from 30. It was well beyond the 3-point line itself. Just a catch and shoot off an inbound. The Rockets were kind of losing him in the passage of play over the course of the game. And even late in the game when he was Raptors' leading scorer, he still got open on a wide open catch and shoot 3. But that was from 30 plus feet, and he knocked that down no problem. But, what I've liked from him all season is sort of the aggressiveness that he's able to go to the basket with. The fact that he's got a variety of moves going to the basket. It's not just a straight line drive and get there as fast as possible. It's not like he's going over the top of anybody. He's not that athletic. But he's got up fakes. He's got Euro steps. He can change hands midair. There's a lot of things in his game that makes him so crafty. And more than anything else, he plays at his own tempo. I asked Darko about, Ja'Kobe seems to be able to draw fouls, which is a pretty rare skill for, first-year players, because usually I feel like rookies are coming in and they're rushing, or they don't know when to pick their spots. to see Jacoby not only know when to pick his spots, but to like change up his timing, throw up some pump fakes, use again, chop up his steps, Euro step, whatever you need to use. That all suggests that he has like this maturity to like read and know when to attack. And the start of this game was just so fun, man. And he was super hyped too. You could tell like the excitement that sort of came out of him. He's a pretty reserved guy. Like in general, he's got like kind of like a poker face almost in the majority of the game. We haven't seen that much of him this season because he obviously missed time due to the start of it, but he's been coming on strong. And this is we forget because we've seen Jamal Shead right away from preseason. We've seen Jonathan Mobile coming right away. Jamison Battle, we've seen him as early as back as Summer League. He did a lot of good stuff. Jacoby was kind of like in and out in Summer League, and it didn't start preseason obviously because he was injured. Didn't start the season, and now he's coming on strong. And now you're seeing like the talent separate itself because those other guys, like, they do a lot of good things. Jamison Battle played a good game in this one. Certainly Jamal Shead played a great game in this one. We'll get to those guys too. But the talent with Jacoby is that ability to score, to get his own shot, to create things in the mid-range like he's done, not so much today because today he was going mostly to the basket or hitting from three, but he's got a bit of a mid-range game too. And then he guards too. Like tonight obviously like wasn't the best game for him. I think he got overpowered a little bit. He is still, again, a rookie, and he's like a little skinnier. I feel like the more that he's able to put on a little bit of strength, hold his position just a little bit better, that's going to help his game on both ends of the floor because he's already a guy who, because of the fact that he knows how to change up his timing, is going to throw guys off with their contests, and that's going to create opportunities from the finish. We've seen him make 2 threes through and ones already this season as well in the last week here as well. So he's just been really impressive. And I think that like to see him unfortunately lead this game due to the 6 fouls at the very end there, you could also see the emotion of how much this thing means to him, right? Like the fact that you saw sort of how hyped he was when he was scoring the first 14 for the team, and then how disappointed and frustrated he was when he had to leave the game because he fouled out on a mistake that he really made. Just tells you how much he wants this thing. And I thought he just competed at the highest level. And I know that the Raptors already have Grady Dick, and he's come on so strong. Like, he's probably been, for me, still the breakout player of the season for this team. He's been playing great. Even today, I thought he started the game really well. In the bulk of the game, he kind of like disappeared and then came on strong again. He was just, again, not afraid to shoot shots in crunch time. He knocked down a big corner 3 there in the fourth quarter. But Grady's sort of been the player that has come on strong, and he's made it onto scouting reports. And obviously right now, Jacoby's on nobody's scouting report. Like, Houston was losing him, even though he was leading the Raptors in scoring. But I actually am just so happy to see both of those guys, because all of a sudden the Raptors have 2 movement shooters, 2 guys who can also get it off the dribble as well, 2 guys who don't need the ball that much to be able to be successful as scorers. And also in Jacoby, I could see like a strong defender in the future as well. Right now, obviously, he's got to get physically stronger, and he's a rookie. He's got to, again, go through the league a couple times, get a sense of how to guard this guy, what their tendencies, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, it's a team defensive is a team game too, and, whatever, the Raptors team defense in general is not good. Today was actually pretty good, but like, or for parts at least was pretty good. But like, I'm just like, I'm really hyped to have these 2. Like, this is just like really fun watching them. And the start of the game, it was basically those 2 guys. Grady was obviously, it's the fact that, he's getting that respect. It's like Dillon Brooks, he's Houston's best defender. And obviously, like, Toronto's doesn't have like that many sort of scoring options at the moment, right? No RJ, of course. Like, he ends up leaving this game. Well, he didn't even leave this game. It's just weird because he went through the pregame warmups, which is usually a good sign that he's going to be able to play that night. But despite missing last game, which was on Thursday, it was Thursday with illness and 2 days off, he was unable to play again today. And so obviously that changes things up for Houston because it's a last minute scratch. Otherwise, you would have seen Dillon Brooks on RJ Barrett. To see, Grady get the Dillon assignment defensively, it was just like, that is a sign of respect. That is a sign of like the other teams really seeing what you can do scoring wise. And to see Grady attack that, literally spin off of that, like Grady pulled out like a Pascal Siakam spin move with like a rip through off the drive and got past his man, because guys usually like to pressure him, take away his space. And then he got into the lane and he spun around and finished with the finger roll layup. Like, that's beautiful stuff from Grady Dick. And that's, for the Raptors, like, this is just a lot of really promising things from their young guys. And Grady just plays tough. He got end to end for a really, really difficult layup in transition. the 6 assists tonight, a lot of that was just him sort of, getting downhill against a Rockets team that was super aggressive. Now, I think maybe over the course of the game, like I mentioned, he was kind of quiet. And to me, a lot of that is just Grady's got to learn how to play stronger with the ball. Part of that is just getting stronger in general. Part of that is also the skill development to sort of like be able to shield and protect and just be a little bit more aware. The other part is just I feel like he's rushing into a lot of these things sort of without a plan. He's picked up his dribble. He's going full speed. That's a good chance to turn it over if you don't have a chance to shoot it or pass it right away, right? So I think, there's been a couple times this season where he just hasn't necessarily been strong with the ball while getting downhill. And that's probably the next thing to sort of like learn to pick his moments better, maybe even slow down a couple possessions here or there. But in general, I like how fearless both of these two guys are. And they were like, they were for me like the main reasons to watch this game. And then, of course, we're forgetting about the Raptors' other shooting guard, or whatever you want to call Ochai these days. Shooting guard. He's played small forward. He's played power forward all over the place. But, 6'4", same height as these guys. Another young wing. Ochai, very interesting game today because the Rockets opted to put Şengün on Ochai for a lot of these possessions. Now, a lot of sort of teams have done this thing where they try to take their centers out of the pick and roll by sort of stashing them on sort of quote unquote the most inert offensive threat on the other side by sort of stashing them on wings, right? So you first saw this with like not first, but like it was really prominently done with Ime Udoka when he was coaching the Boston Celtics. He would put Robert Williams on like a non-shooting wing, and then he would sort of help off that wing and be able to sort of like, contest shots freely, almost like basically playing free safety off of the weakest defender and using the best shot blocker to do that. Now, Şengün is very much a different player than Robert Williams. Robert Williams is jumping all over the place and blocking shots, and, Şengün's just not really that type of guy. But they still sort of try to hide him on an Ochai. But here's the thing. Last year, you could have absolutely hit, whoever you wanted on Ochai. He wasn't looking to score. He was pretty new to the team. He didn't really know his space. And also, he just didn't really have the kind of skill set and the confidence he's playing with now. Now, you're seeing with Ochai tonight, you watch back his game, it's very much the same game as you would see from like, a rolling power forward or a rolling center, because he would come to set the screen to bring, even though he's typically not your screen setter on the ball, but the Raptors were looking to attack Şengün. And those moments when, the Rockets were in that position to sort of like either, ice those pick and rolls or blitz those pick and rolls, and like basically try to arrange their two defenders to see where they should be in that involvement. Ochai did such a great job of recognizing what the Rockets are doing and outsmarting them by slipping out of those, because he would sometimes not even set the screen. He would just fake like he was going to set and then cut downhill, get a chance to sort of get a step on his guy and then finish around the basket. Really, really clever stuff from Ochai. And it's really rewarding when you see players specifically get assigned to work on certain things, like Grady assigned to get better at shooting and getting sort of like working on his footwork and, working on attacking closeouts and sort of just like, getting stronger as well. All those things I feel like are translating to his year 2 leap. With Ochai, the assignment coming into the offseason was like, we're going to scrap your game and we're going to revamp it. And part of that revamp, obviously, was getting really, really efficient from the corners. That's also been something that he's been doing well. But tonight he didn't really get as many open threes because the Raptors didn't get as much dribble penetration. Again, we'll get to that in a bit, because that was probably the part that I thought was just like, I didn't really understand. But it's the fact that he also learned how to play as a on-ball like screener. And that was something they were trying to get him to do in Summer League. And of course, it wasn't really popping off from Summer League, but Summer League is like 2 weeks. It just comes by like that, right? Like, seeing him now learn that skill where he's able to come screen and then slip out and the teammates know that he's doing that, that's really good coaching, both from like the long-term view and the short-term view. Long-term view is to see that you have this player in Ochai Agbaji who's a wing. It's very unorthodox to go teach a wing how to do these big man skills, but that's sort of like the vision they had. They anticipated a future matchup where a team might stash their center on him and try to hide. Just kidding, you can't necessarily hide. If we're still going to put you in pick and roll, it'll just look different. And then short-term view, this made a lot of sense for this specific matchup. So I was really happy with Ochai. I was happy with Jacoby. I was happy with Grady. Honestly, the rookies come out. I mean, everybody come off that bench played well tonight. Kelly, I thought, had a really good first shift. Second shift wasn't as good. But, Kelly just has just enough veteran smarts, was flopping just a little bit here and there, just sort of sell a couple, calls and contact. I actually thought he did a good job against Şengün. The Raptors did a really good job of doubling Şengün. Basically, anytime he got in the post, the Raptors came really quickly with a double and did a good job, especially in the first half, forcing turnovers out of that look or forcing tough shots from Şengün out of that look. Second half, the Rockets did a better job of anticipating, moved the ball faster, and the Raptors weren't as good at rotating around. It happens, right? But at least the first idea was good. Kelly did a great job of guarding that. He also was able to give you the pick and pop looks, ran the offense decently for you. All that was good. Chris Boucher, that third quarter, the way he was able to fly back and forth. The play I thought I loved the most with Amin Thompson going one-on-one against Chris. Took him off the dribble, snatched it back, and Chris slipped and fell over. And Thompson went up for the shot, missed it. I mean, that's obviously the issue with his game right now. Is he's great in a lot of things, but he can't shoot. So he missed the jumper. Going back the other way, Chris Boucher immediately back cuts him for 3. Then you also had a play where Chris got open on transition for a wing 3. Then you got another possession where he goes hard down the paint through contact, took it through 2 guys, Euro step, and finished at the basket and won. And you saw sort of the way the teammates responded. It was right in front of the Raptors bench. They all came over to rush him, pick him up and everything like that. Like the kind of hustle and effort that Chris plays with. I know Chris is not a perfect player. Chris obviously is a guy who, if the Raptors could tomorrow trade him, for future assets, they're probably going to do it just based on the situation that the team is in. But I don't think it should ever be taken for granted when somebody wears a Raptors jersey and plays as hard as Chris Boucher does. The other game, I forgot to say this, but against the Nets, there was a play that Chris literally dove out of bounds and he was parallel to the ground on some Dennis Rodman shit and diving out of bounds to save a loose ball, and that led to a bucket for his teammates. And it wasn't an assist; it was just a rebound for him. But when you see him literally, doing a Superman it's parallel to the ground, diving out of and he's diving out of bounds for a game in December. He's been in the league how many years? He still plays like that. I love that from Chris. Chris was huge tonight. He actually played a really, really great effort. Jamison Battle comes off the bench and knocks down those 3s. Took it strong to the basket one time too. He's just an automatic shooter. It's actually really nice to draft a shooting special, or not even draft. They found him undrafted. That's incredible, right? And then Jamal Shead. I mean, the defense, the playmaking, the fact that he played 33 minutes tonight, it doesn't help. Well, I think Davion was available, but they didn't ultimately use him. And obviously IQ is out, so you're going to need more minutes from your point guard position. But the fact that he's taken this opportunity and gone strong with it, 11 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists, coming into the year, a lot was made of, obviously he's a defensive point guard, wasn't a first round pick, and he wears number 23. So I think a lot of the, the natural narratives, I think people were kind of connecting okay, maybe this is a Fred regen or whatever. First off, he's not a Fred regen. They just really don't play like that, each other at all. But more than anything else, he talked about how Fred, who obviously plays in Houston now, Jamal, who was in Houston in college, I think Fred gave him some guidance, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how many tips he took from Fred, I don't know how close they were, but there was some sort of bonding connection. Well, you look at this game, he actually comes out here and actually outplays Fred VanVleet head to head. I mean, it wasn't hard to outplay, 1 of 10 from the field. And this was certainly a very shocking and almost eye-opening performance to see from Fred, how much he struggled, and we know he's better than this, but it's still really impressive from Jamal to come out here and do what he did and force the type of turnovers. There's plays where he's rotating on 3 different guys and he's winning jump balls against bigger players. He's getting to the basket, he's using his quickness, he's getting into the paint. He's such a good immediate passer out of those drives where he gets downhill, he touches the paint and he sprays it out. And, that's a big part of his assist tonight was just him being able to create that gravity going downhill and then making instant passes. There were a lot of good things in this game. And so I don't want it to be misconstrued that this was a frustrating game, and that this wasn't this was about the fact that the Raptors lost the lead, or this is not about the future and getting the picks and all that kind of stuff. I've just given you 20 minutes of just really, really strong, positive things that the Raptors did tonight. On the flip side, this was a really disappointing game from Scottie on the offensive end. It was almost eye-opening the way that Scottie has so much more to give than this. And whether you want to say right now, okay, it's the injury, which injury? You want to pick the eye or the ankle? The fact that, he's had a couple of things happen to him this year. I'm not unsympathetic to that whatsoever, right? You want to say that the Houston Rockets did a great job of shutting down the paint and setting their best defenders on him and showing him 2 bodies. I'm honestly this is not about any of that stuff. But here's the thing. That's just what comes with being a star player, right? You're going to see multiple bodies. Teams are going to game plan against you. They're going to put your best defenders against you, and they're going to try to deny and take away your space. The thing that I think that really needs to be said for stars in particular, especially when you're the star player of the team, is you have a disproportionate responsibility to the rest of the guys. Like, it's, you know what? If Jonathan Mobo has a bad game, it's cool. Like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool. Like, they're not on the same level, right? The standard for the star is like way higher than the standard for like the next highest player, which would be like RJ in this case, or like IQ when he's healthy eventually, or Jakob, and you go further down the list. Like, other guys have bad games, it doesn't even get spoken about. Who cares, right? There's that portion. So obviously, like, there needs to be a bigger load and a bigger sort of like demand put on the star player. The other part too is just like, what's the process in which this game was played with? And I think early on, you just saw that Scottie was trying no matter what to hit the three. And I know that like this is from Darko, and I'm sure if Darko gets asked about it pregame or sorry, postgame, I wish I was there, but obviously I got to come back here to do the live react pod. But like, you know, if he's asked about it in the future, he will continue to say that like, we're taking a long-term view with Scottie. We really believe in developing his three-point shooting. Remember, I went down to practice at the beginning of the month, and I'm like, hey, since Scottie come back from the injury, this is the eye injury, he was shooting like 7 attempts from three. Like, you know, would you like that approach? And Darko said, no, I actually want it to be more. I want him to shoot more than 7 threes a game. And you know what? It's just about sort of like, you know, developing that skill. Well, like, you look at this, it's like, okay, fine. You get the green light, you get to develop the skill. But there were like three times tonight where Scottie came down in transition, didn't look to make any other pass, didn't look to make any other play. It wasn't like he was getting sagged off and he had all the time in the world to shoot it. Just ran down the floor and just immediately pulled up for three. Not a rebounder, you know what I mean, in position, not a play looked to be set. That development of that specific shot cannot come at the precedent of the development of everything else on the team. And also it's just bad basketball. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, if it was any other player, you know, you would say the same thing. Like, especially if they're on the other side. If Fred came down the floor and just jacked a three every single time, which honestly, towards the end of his time here in Toronto, did a decent amount of that, he gets called out. It's normal. And guess what? He's the star player. The buck stops with him. That's normal, right? Like, this was just bad offensive process from Scottie in this game. When you saw him look to attack, right? And of course, like, he's more of an opportunistic scorer than like, I'm gonna score on you no matter what. Like, obviously we know Scottie's not Kobe, right? Only one Kobe on this team, and his name's Jacoby. But like, you know, he's obviously an opportunistic scorer. Well, then it's up to both Scottie and also his teammates, and most importantly the coach, to put him in that opportunity to score. Scoring is not an optional thing for Scottie. I don't want to necessarily hear about like it's the unselfishness or whatever. Like, it is to some degree, and I love the unselfishness, but this team is nowhere good enough, especially with RJ, Jakob, IQ out of the lineup, that like Scottie it's okay for him not to score. He needs to look to score, and they need to continuously find ways for him to score. And if he can't hit the pull-up three, which again is like one of the hardest shots in basketball, then fine. There's other ways to score. One of the great things about Scottie is he's a very versatile player, right? So find a different way. What I saw in the fourth quarter, it was a little bit too little too late. But you know what? He got the opportunities against Fred, and he took it strong against them, you know, shot over the top of him. You should. Fred's like a foot shorter than him. Shoot over the top of him. You're stronger than him. Shoot over the top of him. And if you miss it, go for the rebound and go again and go again and go again. That relentlessness to like drive to score and drive to attack. You know, when he got Şengün and he finally was like, all right, I'm not going to let Şengün guard me like this. And he like took him strong to the basket, and he got fouled one time and he got a layup the other time. Like, those things are good, but like that took until the fourth quarter for that to happen. What about the first 3 quarters, right? And like, and again, like, you can go back possession by possession, and you might say, well, you know, this was a good pass here because of the double team and triple team and whatever. Like, honestly, it wasn't like they were playing that like James Harden denial defense from back in his MVP days where they were trapping him half court. And it's like, okay, obviously I don't want him to shoot from there and force it from there over a double team. But it wasn't like that. Like, I thought the balance of this game, he just wasn't in it enough on the offensive end. On the defensive end, did he compete? Of course. That's the thing we love about Scottie. His baseline is high in the sense that he can literally give you almost nothing offensively with the scoring, and yet he could still be a contributor on the whole because he was able to double team. He did a lot of that double teaming. You know, he did a good job of like just playing sort of team defense in general, ends up with 10 rebounds. Which was good because he only had like 5 midway through the fourth quarter, so he must have rebounded a lot in the fourth as well. You know, had some deflections, probably led the team in deflections. You know, he had the chase down block, although that was also very unfortunate because he had a chase down block against Jalen Green, but instead he like pulled on the net with his off arm as he was going to the block, and I just didn't see any need for it. And maybe he didn't mean to do it on purpose. Like, man, maybe he's just jumping across, and his lead hand is the right hand, and he's trying to block it, and the left hand gets hot in the net, whatever. But that is a tech, and that is also goaltending. So it went from a block on Jalen Green to erase 2 points to then giving the 2 points on the goaltend and a tech for holding the net. And that gave Houston the lead in the third quarter. It was like, it just didn't necessarily come off for him tonight. And again, like, a man can have a bad night. And I think I put out a tweet because at the start of the third quarter, and I'll fully cop to this, right? Because this season, I've been trying to do my best to both cover the game live and be down there and sort of, again, give you some observations from being down there, talk to some people down there, obviously participate in the pre-games with the coaches when there's availability beforehand. But unfortunately, we don't own broadcast rights inside the building, so I cannot go live from the building. You notice that if I'm at the arena or not, I'm going to still be here in my home studio to give the live reaction podcast. So what that typically means is that at halftime, I'll just sprint home basically. And so sometimes that means that I have to watch on my phone at least to sort of keep up with it live for like the first 2 or 3 minutes of the third quarter usually. So when the Raptors came out in that third quarter and it was another bad start, and because the first quarter was a bad start, Darko called timeout after about a minute and a half. He called the first timeout. It was 7-2 Houston. Toronto responded. They did well, and they actually led after the first quarter. Coming out of the halftime, the Raptors were up, not by that much, but they were up, and immediately Houston goes on like a 5-0 run, and Toronto had a turnover, and so he calls timeout. This time it was literally less than a minute into the game. He was like, timeout into the reset, right in the third quarter. And then so what I saw was the Raptors made the subs. They took Jonathan Mobile out, they put Kelly Olynyk again, and then they took Jacoby Walter out, and they what did they put in the game? I think it was Jamison Battle, and then Battle was replaced by Shead. But regardless, I was like, wait, why are people getting hooked after 50 seconds? Like, I'm not saying that those guys played well, but like, I just didn't understand why they were getting hooked. Now, of course, in retrospect, and so what I said at the time was, wait, hold on. If Scottie's having like one of his worst game of the season, where even the process of how he was going about it was not looking good, and you know what, like, if we're gonna try to put our foot down anywhere, why are we trying to put our foot down on these rookies rather than starting with like the player, again, with the best player with the most expectations, right? Why are we starting with these rookies? So I didn't understand why they pulled those two guys out immediately. Again, Darko might be explaining this right now in the postgame as we speak. Unfortunately, I'm not there. But again, that's my choice. Obviously, I choose to prioritize the show. But then, so I tweeted that out. And of course, I think people misinterpreted it as like, we should bench Scottie, which I did not say that, because I don't think the Raptors should bench Scottie pretty much under any circumstances, unless like, honestly, like there are probably behavioral issues that could possibly come up, or like something terrible. But like, no, realistically 99.999% of the time they should never bench Scottie Barnes. They should let them play through it. My point was, let the guys play through it. Jacoby Walter had just come off 14 points, the first 14 points of the game. Why is he all of a sudden after 50 seconds he can't play for it anymore and he's got to get yanked? And Jonathan Mobile, I don't think he even saw the court afterwards, maybe a little bit in the second half, but like he got benched after 50 seconds. Now, of course, this is where I was corrected, and this is where I'm going to cop to it, because again, when I was watching it on my phone on the way home, I'm like, okay, I guess I didn't hear the commentary, or I didn't see the box score that he had already picked up 3 fouls in the first half, and he picked up an offensive foul to start the third quarter, which at that point, 4 fouls. You always got to manage the guy, especially considering the fact that he ended up coming back in the game and ended up fouling out, right? So that, obviously, that's my bad. I completely understand tactically why you would bench a guy or pull a guy out after he has got 4 fouls, especially a rookie, a minute into the third quarter. Again, this is something I pointed out. I think it was super early in the season, Raptors Kings, where there was a play where Jonathan Mobile had 3 fouls. In the second quarter, Darko actually left him in and immediately picked up his 4th foul against DeMar DeRozan. This was like in early November. So like, this is, if anything else, it's a correction based on sort of like relating to a previous incident where it wasn't done correctly. So that's my bad. But like, why Mobile? Like, why are we like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, if it's a developmental season, we can't let them play through it. You know what I mean? So regardless, I just didn't think, again, like my point is not to bench Scottie. I don't think Scottie should have been benched in this game. I just wanted more of Scottie, more than anything else, not less. But, I also do think that like, it is hard when you're Darko and the approach is like, we're going to be overwhelming positivity. We're going to sort of give you, playing time and we're going to shower you with love. And you know what I mean? Like over and over again, you know, like we're just going to, you know, just say yes and just like give you and allow, and you have this allowance and it's an endless allowance to sort of like make mistakes and play good or play bad or whatever. It just happens. Like, it just felt weird to like put the foot down after that. You know what I mean? Like that sort of like this wouldn't feel weird from Ime Udoka. You know, like, okay, a minute into the game, you're not doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to call a timeout, lay the hammer on you guys. And then the third quarter, same thing happens. You guys come out, don't play well. I'm going to lay the hammer on you guys. And in fact, I'm going to really lay the hammer, not just by yelling. I'm going to take some of your guys out. Because that's Ime's vibe. Like, I was there pregame and Ime's press conference. This guy's like a scowling bear. Like, he's just like, it's hard to even, like, it's crazy. He's got like a villain aura to him. Like, it's crazy. You got to see some of his interviews. Like, he's kind of like that, you know what I mean? And whatever. Obviously, he's clearly working for the Rockets, but it just, I don't know. Like, it's hard to be the nice guy and then also be like, yeah, you're benched. Like, regardless, like, it was a weird one. Of course, Jack pointed out the thing with the challenges. I thought even watching the play live, because there was a play in the second quarter where Darko opted to use his challenge, where I think Jacoby Walter got called for a blocking foul against Dillon Brooks. The play was reviewed. The play was deemed that I think the official's explanation was almost sassy when he was like, yeah, at no point was the defender in a legal position. So I was like, damn, okay. So he's like, that's 100% a foul. But a couple things went into that. Number one, it was the second quarter. The Raptors were up. You know, they had the momentum. The play was, again, it was clearly a foul the whole way through. So it just didn't necessarily feel like a great challenge just on the challenge alone. The other part, which just comes to like the weirdness of challenges in general, because it's kind of its own mini game, is that so the play happened when it was a mandatory timeout charged to the Houston Rockets, right? Darko opted for the challenge there because when you challenge for something and you lose it, you lose the timeout that accompanies it. However, this is a weird one because it was technically Houston's timeout, accounting wise at least. It was it was official TV timeout, but they charged to Houston. They give one to Houston, they give one to Toronto, keep it balanced, one per half. But yeah, they instead of charging that timeout to Houston when it was supposed to be, they charged it to the Raptors. So not only did the Raptors lose their challenge for the game, they also lost an additional timeout that they didn't even call. So, like, at the end of the game, when it was the fourth quarter and the game was spiraling out of control, it was like, well, the Raptors could really use a timeout here, but they were only on one more timeout for, like, the last 6-7 minutes of the game. And it was like, oh, man, not only do you not have the challenge, which, again, could have been used, potentially, maybe, I don't know, I need to see more replays. Did like, the Rockets tip it out towards the end there, whatever, right? But the Raptors couldn't even challenge that because they had no more timeouts in the first place. So it was just kind of a double whammy. I get Jack's point with that. I think, honestly, there probably could be a better efficiency sort of put in here. I don't necessarily like the challenges. I don't necessarily like so many stoppages to the game. But if you are given a tool to potentially compete with, then as a competitor, and obviously this is the coach's realm to compete, right? Especially a direct realm to compete with the coaches, then you try to use it as advantageously as possible. There has to be something more than just like a player begs you and you call the challenge, or like, you know, you feel like a snap moment of like being, you know, indignified and, you know, injustice, and you call the time, you know what I mean? Like, it's more, I think there could just be a lot to be improved. And ultimately it's a minor thing because we're talking about like 1 or 2 possessions over the course of a game that might flip, or like we're talking about 1 timeout out of 7, which like you may or may not use. But then again, there are times when it does become useful. So I do think it's like maybe a little bit convenient on the media's part. And I fully own up to that too, of like, you know, sort of hitting them when it happens and, you know, not really talking about it when it doesn't sort of affect anything. But I think maybe in general, just a better process with challenges. So like, again, a lot of positives, a couple of frustrations. Ultimately, the Raptors lose to a much better team. Houston did not play very well tonight. I'm not going to lie. They didn't look like a much better team for most of it, but you knew that with sort of the way they play, with how deep they are, they're going to be able to sort of like put up a good effort and fight back. And, you know, they did that. And yeah, man, I guess the last thing is just, before we go to questions, by the way, of course, you can leave those questions in the chat. And of course, hit a like for the stream. You know, just do it. You know, if you're already here, you're already watching it, just hit like for the stream. But yeah, last thing was just, man, Fred, it was just really tough watching Fred. And I know that like on this way out, Fred became a very polarizing guy. I think that I'm choosing to remember more than anything else, the guy who hit 5 threes, 6 threes in games, 7 threes in games to like single-handedly bail the Raptors out of like road wins against Milwaukee in the conference finals, or 12 points in the fourth quarter of Game 6. That's not obviously against Golden State, obviously, to win the championship. That's not obviously a carte blanche to like sort of like do whatever you want. But at the same time, especially when players go, I try to just at least remember them for the good times. And Fred was here for so many good times. But to see Fred in those moments, and we know Fred can swing high, high and low, but damn, like it was such a struggle for him tonight. It was kind of the normal shots that he takes, but he just wasn't making them. It was just tough. I just don't think that he's been in a good space recently with sort of like the way he's playing. Obviously he's getting paid a ton, and that's his, Houston's still winning in spite of this, and they're going to continue to back him. They don't have a lot of other options at point guard, but yeah, it was tough. I mean, he got his one basket in the fourth quarter. It was a big basket. It took the lead from 3 to 5 points. But still, like, you expect more than one basket from Fred. But I mean, ultimately it was good to see Fred again. Like, anytime you get reminded of the championship, it's a good memory. But wow, that was a real struggle for Fred in this game. So we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna hear from some of our beloved sponsors, and then on the other end, we will take your questions. So one last chance, get your questions in and hit like on the stream.
Hey man.
Hey buddy.
Just recently hit the big 4-0. What about you, bro?
A little more recently 4-0, but we are both in the 40 club.
Let me tell you, man, being an adult really comes with its share of challenges.
Definitely. I think both you and I are homeowners, and I think we're both also dealing with mortgages in life.
Yeah, man. Mortgage rates, choosing the right terms, dealing with paperwork. It can be really overwhelming,
I still don't know how that works.
Well, listen, that's where our friends at Dominion Lending Centers come in, man. They make the whole process simple and stress-free. Whether you're renewing your mortgage, hunting for the best rates, or if you just need advice, they're here to help, bro.
You know what? I am looking for that advice, and I think that's why I'm going to visit www.dominionlending.ca.
Yeah, man. www.dominionlending.ca. Take the guesswork out of your mortgage and step into financial confidence with our friends at Dominion Lending by our side.
Okay, it is time now for the Tangerine fan inbox, and of course we wanted to let you know that Tangerine is the official bank of the Toronto Raptors, foundational partner of WNBA Canada and NBA Canada, and of course they're not just fans of basketball, they're fans of basketball. They're fans of fans who 3 days before Christmas are tuning in after the Raptors lose to the Houston Rockets to a live stream. They're fans of fans who can recreate every player's layup package sitting from the couch. And of course, if you're hearing this, there's no doubting your commitment. Fans like you are at the heart of what makes this game great. So for the team's 30th anniversary season, they're turning the spotlight from the court to the stands to celebrate in the way you support your Raptors, because this is how we fan. To learn more, visit tangerine.ca/basketball. All right, Jerome, what are the angry masses saying here? John asks, so how many Raptors rookies and sophomore will be in the NBA All-Star rookie game? So how many? I mean, honestly, I feel like Jacoby's making a late push. What's working in their favor is that it is not exactly an overwhelming rookie class in terms of like there's not so many players that are sort of balling out. Some of them, unfortunately, like Jared McCain, who would have absolutely made it, suffered an injury, and I don't think he would be available by the time that comes down to that. But honestly, just off the top of my head, I feel like Shead and Mobo probably have the best chances at it, considering they probably played the most minutes. Jacoby, if he was healthy and playing anywhere near this level, when he first came back to the lineup, he'd probably be in it. But I also think that there's a solid 2 more months before they got to decide. So, I mean, we've always heard about players sort of turning their game up to get to the All-Star game. But I think the same effect can happen for the rookies. If Jacoby puts up a string of 20-point games, which we've seen him to be capable of sort of scoring in great bunches, then I don't see a chance where he wouldn't go if he continued, more games or what he did tonight. But if it for me, for right now, if I had to send 1 or 2 Raptors rookies, I'd send Mobo and I'd send Shead. But yeah, I mean, this rookie class is not particularly strong in terms of standouts, so it is really helping. The bar is not that high for these guys, but yeah, shouts to Jacoby, man. Next one from John Lee, FVV and the Terror Twins versus BBQ, 3-on-3. Who wins? I mean, all due respect to the Terror Twins, and I guess we didn't even see one half of the Terror in the sense of, we didn't see we didn't see Tari Eason available today. I guess he was held out. So we only saw Amen Thompson. Of course, we saw Fred, and obviously Fred didn't have a good game tonight. I'm not even judging him based on tonight, but I think in a game of 3-on-3, I'd definitely take BBQ. I mean, I think the size really matters. Especially, you have Scottie, who I don't really think the other two guys can really cope with in terms of his size. And then, of course, IQ and Fred. I mean, Fred's stronger, but IQ, right now, IQ is definitely a better shooter, and obviously IQ's injured. By the way, I've seen IQ today during a timeout, and this guy wants to be on the court so badly that during the timeout, he took the official game ball, and he was just dribbling it around. He was literally just practicing dribble moves. And he just wanted to be on the court that badly. Obviously, he's in street clothes still, but hopefully he's able to come back eventually. He did speak to media recently, if you want to hear that. But yeah, BBQ, I'd take BBQ in 3-on-3. I think, there's just more size and skill with those three. But I mean, Terra Twins. I mean, how much does defense matter in 3-on-3? Let's be absolutely honest about this, man. It's certainly Fred and Terra Twins is the Terror Squad. I feel Terror Squad is definitely better defensively, but I mean, it matters more if you're better offensively in 3-on-3. So yeah, that's a good question. I like that. Next one from Tina. How do you think the rookies might do versus the Knicks tomorrow? I think the Raptors bench has a good chance of, well, it is on the road. They're rookies. It's back to back, all that kind of stuff. But I think in general, the Knicks bench does not really impress me. And I think that the Raptors rookies have a chance to sort of like play a meaningful role. I think maybe it depends again if RJ's back, because that obviously would change, for example, Jacoby. I think Jacoby probably wouldn't have started if RJ played and was able, but he obviously got the chance to start today and got him off to a great start. I mean, he got himself to a great start, man. That guy had the first 14 points of the game for the team. But I on paper they should play well, but we'll sort of see how it goes. The game's not played on paper. Is that it? That's it. Tangerine fan inbox. That's it. All right. Well, it was I think this was an interesting one. I think more than anything else, again, there were a lot of positives. I'm going to remember this game for Jacoby's, outburst, and hopefully this is the first of many. I love seeing more of Jamal Shead, and clearly he balled out today. I mean, you would love to see that continue on the road, although you would love to have Davion Mitchell to guard against a guy like Jalen Brunson too, but because I don't think that's a job for one guy. But still, a lot of positives. Obviously, Scottie didn't have his best game. Looking forward to him bouncing back, and looking forward to just at least closing out the rest of this year with some stronger play. Again, when you look at it and take a step back, a lot of young guys played well and they competed. It's been like 70% of the season's kind of been that sort of idea. So I'm not mad at it. And of course, I think more than anything else, what this team really needs is that sort of talent infusion that they can get through the draft. So clearly the team knows that too. And we'll sort of see what happens from there. But regardless, Raptors lose tonight. To wrap up here, your 3 stars. And of course, we're going to hand out the Gerald Henderson and the most important guy. First star is going to Jacoby Walter, 27 for the rookie in 28 minutes. Unfortunately, he fouled out, but he balled out too. And shouts to friend of the program, Assad Alvi, who said, next time I throw shit in the can, I'm not going to say Kobe, I'm going to say Jacoby. I think for every Raptor fan, we should be calling Jacoby when we throw stuff into the wastebasket. Second star for me, I'm going to give that to... I'll give it to Jamal. Jamal, I thought, played a really good game. 11 points, 10 assists. That probably is his first career double-double as well. 6 rebounds, 2 steals, a block. He blocked a corner 3, which was really impressive. Won a jump ball. Just did a lot of really, really good stuff, man. Defensively, set guys up. He played a really good game. And then your third star, I really want to give this Chris. I feel like Chris actually played a pretty good game, especially was super impactful in the minutes he was out there. Made a couple of errors here. And you know what? I will give it to Chris. Chris, I want to give it to you. 15 points, 4 assists, a steal, the 4 turnovers. That's what I'm referring to. He made a couple of mistakes, but honestly, he played super hard, man. Again, it can't be taken for granted how hard this guy plays, man. It was certainly needed, and he played a big part in both the Raptors extending the lead in the second quarter and also sort of fighting to stay in the game to start the fourth quarter as well. Your Gerald Henderson Award winner, it's got to go to Dillon Brooks. This guy just I'm not, if I were Alex and I were looking to sort of make the next sort of Betway promo of what sort of picture we take, I feel like you should take the over on Dillon Brooks anytime he comes back to Toronto. I mean, I've seen this with Dillon so many times. I have a very vivid memory of like a very banged up Memphis Grizzlies team coming into Toronto and Dillon Brooks just like woofing and, you know, making every shot and just dominating the game with his swagger and his energy. This is what he does when he comes home. He's got so many friends and family in the crowd. And tonight, it didn't feel dominant because it was mostly from the foul line, but 27 points on 6 of 12 shooting, 13 of 14 from the free throw line, 2 assists, 3 steals, 6 rebounds, 6 turnovers as well. Like, you know, he was sometimes over aggressive, but I mean, I'm sure he hit the over tonight. I'm just saying that much. And then lastly, your most important guy. This is brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ. That is at 590 King Street West. Greta is an incredible place to go pre-game, post-game, to watch the game, during the game. And of course, it's not just about the sports itself. It's also a great barcade where you're able to sort of play some of your absolute favorites, whether that's Mario Kart or Pop-A-Shot or air hockey or, you know, skee ball. Like they got a great stuff there. And of course, great drinks, great food, and it's right in the heart of the city. So next time you're looking to catch the game, go to Greta Bar YYZ. Once again, at 590 King Street West. Your most important guy for this game. Most important guy for this game. Most important guy for this game. I'm gonna have to give that to. Who am I gonna give that to, man? You know what? I'm gonna give it to Ochai Agbaji. I feel like Ochai. I think when we take a step back this season, Ochai has been such a pleasant surprise, and to see him sort of pivot his role and to be able to come into a game like this where defenses try to sort of, you know, you can get disrespected by the defense just like you can get disrespected on offense. Defense try to disrespect him, try to hide centers on him. He's like, you know what, I'll just turn into a screen and roll player, and I'll really learn how to finish around the basket and be really efficient overall with his game. I think he's done such a good job of reinventing himself within a new team within one season, and that's really, really impressive. And I think there's more steps to go with him, but I also think that like a guy like Jonathan Mobile can learn a lot from what Ochai Agbaji has gone through. I know they're very vastly different players, but you know, in the same way Ochai made himself a really efficient finisher at the basket versus last year when he wasn't, I think Mobile can do the same thing. Mobile can obviously get a lot better from the three as well, but Ochai, more than anything else, is a consummate professional. He works really hard, and to see him pivot his role, you know, that's been very important. So shouts to Jonathan Mobo and also Jacoby Walter for being the most important guy. It's mostly just Ochai here, but yeah, I just wanted to slide in that mobile point. Anyway, thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back tomorrow as the Raptors take on the New York Knicks. I'll be back here live after the game. It doesn't matter. It's my birthday. Honestly, what do I want for my birthday? I want a Scottie Barnes bounce back performance for my birthday. You know what? How about that? So I know it's in him. Obviously, he didn't have his best game tonight, but hopefully he'll do a lot better tomorrow. So thanks everyone for listening. For myself, for producer Jerome Chang, this has been the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway, and we'll see you tomorrow.